Welcome to Part 2 of the online version of the Santee School District's one-to-one digital learning program, Parent Orientation. In Part 1, we explain the benefits of the iPad as a learning tool. We also briefly describe the device's features, safe and ethical use of the device, and how to care for the iPad. In this portion of our orientation, we will be explaining options for completing the Apple ID consent form, how to complete our Technology Acceptable Use Policy, or AUP, the Student-Parent One-to-One Digital Learning Participation Agreement, and we will be reviewing our Financial Responsibility and Optional Insurance Agreement. As I mentioned in Part 1 of this orientation, there are several forms that must be completed before a student may receive a device. The first document I will be discussing is your Santee School District One-to-One Digital Learning Program Parent Checkoff List. You can see an example of it on your screen. This form is designed to help make sure that you and your child have completed all of the necessary steps for your child to receive his or her iPad. Let's take a look at the actual checkoff list. When you look at the rest of the page, I know that it looks like a pretty big list. But each of these tasks is important and they all need to be completed before your child may receive his or her iPad. You'll notice that the first task is to either attend a parent one-to-one digital learning orientation or watch the online version, so you can mark that off your list. In addition to this, there are several documents parents must review and complete before students receive their devices. I'll be going through each of these one at a time to help you with this, and the parent checkoff list has them all in order. The first step in this process is to create your child's Apple ID. The Apple ID is tied to the student's school ID number and is used to help set up the iPad for your child. There are two options for doing this, and I will be reviewing them both. In your packet, you should have a document that looks like this. As the form states, you have the option of either giving us permission to create the Apple ID, or you may do it yourself. If you choose to give us permission to issue the Apple ID, you fill out this portion of the form. If you would rather do this step yourself, you fill out this portion of the form and then complete the additional steps which I will review in Part 3 of this orientation. Either way, you fill out the bottom portion of the form and return it to the school. Once the Apple ID consent form has been completed and returned, we can continue to move down the list. The Acceptable Use Policy, or AUP, outlines the district's expectations for how students are expected to responsibly use the district-issued iPad as well as other electronic devices. It will need to be reviewed and signed by both parent and child, along with other documents discussed in this orientation, before your child can be issued an iPad. The AUP has two portions to fill out. First, at the top of page 1, you must print your child's first and last name. Next, at the bottom of page 3, you must again print your child's first and last name, the student must sign, and you must add the school name and your child's grade level. And then you, as the parent, need to print and sign your name. Once the Technology Acceptable Use Policy has been completed and returned, we can keep moving down the parent checkoff list. In addition to the Acceptable Use Policy, or AUP, there is a second document related to the responsible use of the iPad called the Student, Parent, or Guardian Participation Agreement. Just like the AUP, you will need to review this document, and then you and your child must both fill out the information in the first box. The second box gives you the option of having your child take the iPad home or storing it in the classroom. After making this decision, please check the appropriate box and return the completed form to your child's teacher. Once you and your child have completed and returned the Student-Parent One-to-One Digital Learning Participation Agreement, that means you have finished this entire section. Next, we will review Financial Responsibility and the Optional Insurance Agreement. For those of you who might be interested in the optional insurance program for your child's device, there's a set of forms for you to review that outline the policy. The policy provides financial protection against accidental damage to the device. At school, accidental damage is covered, so the policy is solely for accidental damage away from school. As I mentioned earlier, the enrollment period for this optional insurance policy begins on the first day of school and continues through October 31st. For kindergarten, first grade, and second grade parents, there is a second enrollment period that begins on December 1st and ends on February 29th. Again, this second enrollment period is only open to kindergarten, first grade, and second grade parents, as these students will begin receiving their devices in January. Students enrolling in school after this time period will have 10 school days after they receive the device to enroll in the program. In the back of your handbook, beginning on page 11, there is information on the optional insurance program. Here's a screenshot of a table that explains what the optional insurance does and does not cover. Basically, the insurance policy covers accidental damage to the iPad away from school that results in repair or replacement of the device. As you can see, the optional insurance covers one device per year, and an additional $50 deductible applies if the insured device requires repair or replacement due to accidents away from school. I also want to make sure that everyone understands what is not covered by the policy. At school, accidental damage to the device resulting in repair or replacement is covered by the school district, so you don't need to worry about that. Of course, we still want students to be extremely careful with their iPads since, if their device is damaged, they will not have it available to complete activities until it is repaired or replaced. Please note that intentional damage to the device or damage due to negligence, whether on or off school grounds, is not covered under the optional insurance plan. Also, loss or theft of the device is not covered under the optional insurance plan. The expectation here is that students are being responsible with the device and are storing it in a secure location. This concludes Part 2 of the online version of the Santee School District's one-to-one digital learning program, Parent Orientation. If you are choosing to have the school create your child's Apple ID, you have completed all of the required steps. If you are choosing to create the Apple ID yourself, please proceed to Part 3. For additional information, please see the one-to-one program website at the address you see on your screen. Thank you for taking the time to view this presentation in support of your child's learning.